We founded Food Genius for a couple of big reasons. The first is that we looked to the grocery world and saw this incredibly rich and deep and nuanced data about what was happening, and we didn't see the same in the world of food service. So I think the first half of it was we really wanted to bring dramatically better data about what's happening in restaurants to the food industry. The second thing is that a lot of the ways that you interacted with the data looked and felt a lot more like the internet circa 2002 than the modern web. And so for us, founding Food Genius was really about bringing dramatically better data in a dramatically better interface. I think there's a number of data challenges facing the food industry today. Probably chief among them is a variety of disparate, incredibly messy sources in which they know there's actionable insights that are buried there. So a lot of the work that has to be done up front is just compiling those sources together, dealing with the messiness of those sources, and then starting to derive insights from them. The second big data challenge facing the industry is that historically, doing data-based research has been considered a project. You know, there's an RFP, and there's a process, and there's a deliverable, and it's this very kind of set process that takes a long time. And one of the big advantages of modern technology is that research doesn't have to be a project. It can be something that's done in 5 minutes, in half a day, or a 2-week chunk. And so there's actually a behavioral change that has to happen inside of the food industry to switch out of this mode where research is this big, hairy behemoth into something where research is integrated into all of your business processes. One of the really exciting things about the current data landscape is you can see on the horizon what I call the post-data scarcity world. So right now we're compelled to do things with data because we don't have all of the pieces. Specifically thinking about food service, there's incredibly deep and nuanced data about what's happening with the menu, but it's really hard to get a handle on consumer behavior, especially across locations. And so I actually don't see that as a long-term problem. I think there's some short-term solutions to it. I think longer term, that's a problem that's going to be solved because the ubiquitousness of data is growing every single day. But there's this interesting challenge that happens when you have every piece of data you could ever possibly want, which is what do you do with all of it? And so I think we're on the cusp of the data landscape shifting dramatically from one where you're looking to source and find data to one where you're struggling to deal with the volume and complexity of it. So I think the decline of cooking in the home, which has been slow but steady for a long time now, is having some dramatic impacts on the food industry. And I think specifically what you see is people who really weren't competing in the past are now directly competing with one another. So obviously for restaurants, this is a good thing. But I think seeing this trend, convenience stores are growing by having ready-to-heat and ready-to-eat products. And grocery stores are growing by having ready-to-heat and ready-to-eat products. If you think of the grocery store, kind of those aisles of things where you can either walk out of the store and immediately take a bite, or take it home, put it in the microwave, put it in a skillet, and have a really great dinner 15 minutes later, that's exploded. And so all of a sudden, you now have convenience stores competing with grocery stores, competing with restaurants to decide who's going to be bringing home dinner or feeding a family lunch on a weekend. And that has some dramatic implications for the type of products you're making, the way you market those products, and the way you even hold out the overall brand of the business. The big impact of the food industry being behind the times when it comes to technology is that they see what other sectors are doing, what other pieces of the American economy are doing with data, whether that be the financial sector or the banking sector or some other consumer products. And so they very quickly try and kind of leapfrog ahead. And we've seen a number of companies kind of pour good money after bad on technology projects that really just weren't going anywhere. And so I think the challenge is the industry has to very, very quickly learn how to crawl before it can walk and then walk before it can run. But they're in this broader context of a lot of other sectors of the American economy are now running when it comes to big data. So I think that the big challenge is that They have to go through that stepped process of integrating insights into business processes and identifying new systems and migrating from old legacy systems to modern technologies without falling into the trap of buying technology for technology's sake.